Hi, yes, Evan. This week we will be looking at a new decision-making tool called utilitarianism. So last week you looked at situation ethics, which was based on doing the most loving thing, and that came from Jesus' commandment. This week it's much more of a rational sort of decision based on how much good will come of a decision. All right. So utilitarianism, often you assume, well, you think of it as the greatest good for the greatest number. So I'm going to talk you through the things I'd like you to do and how this will look on Google Classroom. Okay, so lesson aims for this week. Understand the theory of utilitarianism. So what is it? Essentially what I've just said. Create a scenario to apply this theory and measure the most utilitarian outcome. So I'd like you to create one scenario and then outline who that benefits and how much happiness that creates person by person. And the extension task is to evaluate whether situation ethics is a better tool to make decisions or utilitarianism. Now that's an extension task, so only do that bit if you have time, if you want to, and if you understand it, okay? So first thing I would like you to do, you can either watch this video and then do this, or you can pause it now. There's a link in Show My Homework to this clip here, which is a crash course on utilitarianism. Now, it's a crash course and he talks quite fast and explains what the theory is in 10 minutes. If you don't pick it all up, don't worry. So A-level students would be using this as a summary as well. But it is useful because his sort of scenario about Batman and the Joker you might have references to. So if I just summarise before you sort of turn the video on, utilitarianism essentially means that all decisions should bring the greatest good for the greatest number. So if it is the best outcome for the most people, then that is utilitarian. Now, similar to situation ethics, it looks at the outcome rather than the action itself. So down the bottom here, it says this theory is concerned with the ends of an action, the outcome of an action, not the action itself. And sometimes a negative action creates a happy outcome. So in this scenario, you might think, well, this actually tells me to sell out my best friend is the utilitarian decision because more people get the truth, or to ignore what my parents say because actually they're not seeing the long foresight of the actions that I'm going to take. So sometimes with utilitarianism, similar to situation ethics, people will be harmed in that process, but as long as you're looking at the long-term happiness for the most people, then that is what this decision-making tool asks you to do. All right, so I will just show you really quickly this clip. It is here.
Batman kill the Joker? If you were to ask the Dark Knight himself with his hard and fast no-killing rule, he'd say absolutely not. Actually, in fact, he would say, absolutely not. When you think about it, dude is pretty Kantian in his ethics. Regardless of what Joker does, there are some lines that good people do not cross. And for Batman, killing definitely falls on the wrong side of that line.
Okay, so that's the clip. If you watch 10 minutes long, have a little listen, and it might be able to sort of reinforce the things that I've been saying here so you understand it a little bit better. Right, then your activities. You have got two scenarios on the slides, and on the Google Doc there is a space for you to type in what you think is the most utilitarian decision. I'm not going to read these for you now. You can look at them specifically in your lesson time and have a think. Now, all of these sort of decisions in RE, they're pretty harsh decisions because, we're not looking at is it mushy peas or garden peas. We're looking at very difficult moral decisions. So they are a little bit tricky, a little bit emotionally tricky, okay? But I would like you not to think what you would do personally, but what is the long-term best outcome for the most people. That would be on the doc. Your main activity is to think about, so task 2, think about a specific moral decision that you can create. So the space that says scenario, type out, it's probably quite long, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and this is the decision. Then in the boxes underneath, I want you to think about, for each person involved in that scenario, what would be the happiness predicted outcome for each of them. All right, so you need to try and think through person by person their happiness. Some people in the scenario might be not happy at all, but it might only be short term. Yeah, some people might be pretty all right with it, but forever. Others might be deliriously happy, but only for 30 seconds. Or they might be really happy for the rest of their lives. So you need to be thinking about the happiness, the intensity, down the bottom of this slide. How strong is the happiness? How long it lasts, its duration, and the extent, how many other people it affects. So for example, if I'm happy, my family don't have to deal with my unhappiness. If I'm stressed, then they all suffer a little bit because I'm less of a good mum and wife and less focused at home because I'm stressed. So think about, for the not just the person themselves, but the people that they can also affect. Okay, I'll show you the sheet that you'll be working on. So it has these two scenarios. You can type in this box your utilitarian decision for each. There you create your own moral decision. So, and if you need to add any more rows under, right click and insert row below. Okay, so you can, if 4 people are involved in your moral decision, great. If there's only 2, then you only need 2 rows. And the extension task, which we discussed in the lesson aims, was this: which is the better decision making tool, last week's theory or this week's theory? And you might want to go back to last week's Show My Homework and skim that theory again and skim what you added, just so you're up with the 2. And if you're going to opt to do that question, I would like some details. So what particularly? They're quite similar in lots of ways. They both look at outcomes. Yeah, so would you be able to differentiate them based on that? Or is there other factors that push one as a better decision-making tool than the other one? But remember, that is an extension task. So good luck, have a good week, and enjoy this RE task. Bye now.